Now I'm gonna have to be quick and try to pick up where I left off. But yeah, like I said, I kind of think that this guy's name would be the same name as me, and I'm not just saying that to be cocky. I just think that that's actually what it is. Because the overall theory for this series, besides just them, because I didn't want to just talk about the credit card salesman specifically, but I feel like the entire series as a whole, when AdventureTube decided to create this series, was basically to teach people to see things from like the perspective of a person who's born with mental disability, physical deformities, things that stunt growth and development of some kind, things that are like serious like cancer and other serious ailments that can lead to death, and just autism and stuff and everything around that category, and what it's like to live in society and the hardships that come from having to live life like that, and the kind of ridicule that you're going to have thrown at you in that kind of situation. Because when you're born autistic, or you're born with like physical or mental disabilities, it can really complicate your lifestyle and really, really screw with you in ways that, are not that good. And it really does make living in life really hard sometimes, especially if you couple that up with depression and stuff. And so that's why I feel like when he made these characters, that it was a stylistic choice on purpose, kind of similar to how the Garbage Pail Kids look the way they do on purpose, to teach the whole narrative of why you don't judge people based on the way they look, because you don't know if they're born like that because their genetics are like that. And it's not right to be judging people based on things they don't have control over. And that's why I feel like it's done like this on purpose. That's the whole point. To kind of, teach you not to do that. And since it's pretty obvious that this protag right here, when he was born, I have this connection with him because in episode 0, Earth, the Parkland pilot birth or whatever, when he's born, it looks like they perform the procedure of C-section, which is when they cut the baby kind of out of the mom or whatever. And that's what they did with this guy. So when someone said that this guy kind of looked ugly to them, I didn't really take too kindly to it, because I happen to be fiction kin, which is basically when you have like a spiritual deep connection to a fictional character to the point to where you kind of believe that you are the character, or you're at least a reincarnation or something like that along those lines, where you're that connected to them to the point that you're the character themselves. So you kind of like start portraying yourself that way 100% of the time, to the point to where it kind of like becomes a character that you may swap into at certain times that when it's triggered or whatever. And so that's kind of like the deep connection I have. But to continue with the credit card salesman in particular, I kind of started nicknaming this guy the human crab boy Benny, Benny, because I felt like that name fit him. But another reason why I kind of felt like his character might actually have cancer, and that his two buddies, Wendell and potentially this guy's name here being Tyler, the reason why, I felt like he had cancer is because he's also part crab. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the zodiac icon symbol for it, they usually sometimes associate that with like the crab, like the animal, the crab or whatever. They tend to associate that with that particular zodiac. And that's why I feel like he's supposed to be like a living representation of the zodiac sign and the animal associated with it. But at the same time, it's supposed to represent like what it's like to have to live like that, which is why these other two are working so desperately to get so much money in and hopes to help this guy before it's too late. Which I really honestly think that might be the case, because like seriously, another reason is just simply because Wendell here, he's the first one to walk away from the other two. And then the human crab boy that I nicknamed Benny and the guy that potentially has the same first name as me are the ones that are left behind, and those two must be talking about something. And when I posted the video recording of like this guy talking to the mute boy, trying to convince him to buy the credit card and stuff during the day, he mentioned that only 2 people were convinced enough to buy them. And clearly that's not going to be enough money for them to make in order to cover, treatment for cancer, obviously, because that stuff doesn't come cheap or whatever. So that's probably why this guy had to get a second job to work at that place selling, the alcoholic beverages and whatnot. So that's probably why. And that's why I think this is an interesting take on it, because see, these guys were introduced in a place that's the big city. And a lot of people seem to think that all people in the city are very sketchy people that are untrustworthy and only care about money. And while it is true when you first hear this guy that does all the talking for them, talk about how you're supposed to do credit cards and then like talk about what you're not supposed to do with credit cards, it does kind of come off like kind of sus and stuff, like he's trying to, break the law to a degree. But if my theory is true and they're really genuinely doing it just to raise enough money for their friend to recover from cancer or something, if that is the case, then this whole concept is to teach you not to judge people based on stereotypes, because even the worst looking people might actually have the heart of gold. And that's probably what they're trying to convey here. And that's why you should never judge people, because it doesn't matter what a person looks like. That's like saying if a person with tattoos has tattoos and stuff, that means they're part of a gang that's like violent and wants to hurt people, when that's not entirely true. So you can't always base things on stereotypes. And so that's kind of what I think here. I genuinely think that that's actually the case with these characters, and that's why they're designed this way. Now, would I freaking flip the frick out if like AdventureTube ever considered adding my Sona into the series, since he hasn't made episode 3 yet? Heck yeah. Because you see, my guy has 4 arms, 1 leg, and 3 eyes. And he basically is an energy drink salesman. But like at the time when I made this guy, I was making up that he was going to teach lesson 3, which was responsibility and control of recklessness. Because if you're going to learn about how to live in society as like an autistic person, or some of the stuff that these characters that he's already introduced have, you want to also know how to be responsible, but how to control yourself to not make reckless decisions so you don't end up in bad places. But as far as other characters not having their names revealed, I don't have a drawing of this character, but the love interest of the protag, that's the mute boy in the series, who has the flower in her hair, I want to add in that I think I figured out that her name is most likely associated to whatever the flower is supposed to be. And obviously these characters are going to be main characters, so there's something very important with the credit card salesman and stuff. I feel like that he's definitely, like, these 3 are definitely going to eventually have to get the help of the protag over here and his parental guardian that's been teaching him how to live life and stuff. Because, like I said, he's a mute boy, literally does not have his mother anymore because his mom died during C-section for him to live. So he's learning at a young age how to basically fight for his life, kind of almost on his own, with a strict love-hate type thing. Like his parental guardian doesn't hate him. I would say the name of the guy that's taking care of him, but it starts with like an L, but it's like a really weird kind of name. Like, it's a really cool sounding name, but I just don't know how to pronounce it correctly, and I don't want to butcher it, because it's obviously some kind of other language that I'm not good with pronouncing correctly in my English language, so it's probably going to come out all wrong. But, like, I like the connection that those two have, and I really wish I had I had something strong like that going on for me, you know, at the start. But yeah. But yeah, basically, I feel like, the whole series is literally just this is what it's like to live, with cancer, or this is what it's like to live in the perspective of being physically disabled or mentally disabled, or what it's like to be autistic, and these are the hardships that you have to face, and this is what you have to do about, overcoming those obstacles. And I think his series is to encourage people that are like this to, be able to overcome those obstacles and, stand up for themselves and to keep going and to not give up. Like, this is basically a series written out for all people that suffer from all the things that I just said, in hopes to remind them that you're not weird, you're not an outcast, you're not all these negative things people tell you. Don't let them bring you down, because you're so much more than that. And you should see the beauty in things that other people can't even begin to see, because they're neglecting to see it, because they just choose not to see the goodness and all the beautiful things before them, because they'd rather, look at negatives and, pick out all these bad things about people's designs rather than appreciate the good things they're doing. And so, yeah, if my theory is correct, I'm going to be surprised. But yeah, I feel like the more I look at these three credit card salesmen in particular, the more relatable I've come to realize that they are. And that could very well be because I'm 30 years old, and my 30-year-old brain is somewhat having an impact on the 12-year-old mentality. And I'm kind of somewhat seeing a more deeper, storyline developing amongst these three, because I do kind of feel like these three live with each other as well. And the fact that the guy that smiles a lot and, does all the talking for the credit card selling during the day, him having to have two jobs then pretty much says a lot, because he obviously has to work really hard for this one guy, because they obviously care for each other like a family. Now, I will point out that even though I made this Pokemon reference because they talked about battling and trading credit cards, like you would with Pokemon, that I am getting a Jesse, James, and Meowth vibe from these three, and so I can kind of see them potentially following the main pro tag throughout the rest of the series. Like, I can actually see that happening. But yeah, going forward, I'm just going to call this guy Benny, because the name makes sense to me. And I'm probably going to start calling this guy Tyler, because it makes the most sense. Because I'm starting to realize that all these characters that didn't have their names revealed are easy to almost figure out now if you pay attention to what they're doing in each episode. And so that's what I'm going to be keeping my eyes open for. So yeah, that's basically the entire theory as a whole, as of right now, until I get proven wrong or until I get proven accurate. But either way, I kind of think that this is basically just to teach people what it's like to live life like this. Meaning that the creators that work on this channel probably have these things going on themselves, and that's why they're going out of their way to make an entire series dedicated to people that struggle with these things. Which is what I appreciate, because I myself happen to be an autistic guy myself, so I kind of do understand where some of these struggles can come from. And so, yeah, this is why I have a deep connection to their series, and I would recommend that you take time out of your busy schedule to literally watch the pilot all the way to episode 2. Now, there's like a second video for episode 2 where they showcase a potential gameplay of what a video game with these characters would look like. Of like this character here going to the doctor to supposedly go and fix his vocals from being mute to being able to speak again. But not the dental, but the surgeon, he goes to see a surgeon too. The surgeon he goes to see also tells him that they don't have anesthesia, which is the biggest reason why I connected to this character, because this was right before I went to the dental surgeon to get all my teeth pulled out. So, ironically, I actually relate to this character 100%. If it's not just because of the C-section thing, it's definitely because of that. Because that right there was actually kind of freaking ironic. Cause at first when I watched the video, I was like, that can't be real, right? Like, actual surgeons aren't gonna actually tell you that in real life, are they? And then I go to the dental surgeon, and they literally say that exact thing. And I'm like, well, darn. So, yeah, it turns out that AdventureTube, you're really good at basically conveying real life stuff in this series, because you have pinpointed things quite accurately. So, props to you for doing such a great job. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next few episodes, and I hope you and your friends are doing well. Again, I'm sorry that the first part of this recording talking about the theory of what I think is going on here, not to mention that the music that you guys keep choosing is very reflective of the message you're teaching too. Because, like, for example, I think it's like the one song that plays in the pilot for Birth or whatever, where they have the lyrics talking about, like, the organs being, from the, being on the outside and stuff, like inside out or whatever, where it's, like, reversed and stuff. I found out that the 3 letters that show up during that parody version of, like, a kid's program, TV show or whatever, that this character was watching in that one room, when I looked it up in the order that it was presented in, I found out that that was actually a medical condition where a person's born with their organs on the outside of their body rather than on the inside with a thin layer of, like, skin to cover it. And then it's, like, a really dangerous, like, condition that you have to be extra careful with because you could literally damage the organs if not careful. That can happen, like, under certain circumstances, which is another reason why I feel like this series is literally just basically trying to show the world what it's like to live life with all these complications and why you shouldn't judge people for things they don't have control over, and how to respect people and how to appropriately approach people without discriminating them. And as a guy that's supportive of diversity, this is why I don't see these characters as being ugly, because it's a stylistic choice. And you chose to make them this way to prove a point as to why not to treat people bad, because these people could be born like this in real life. So why would you judge them for something they can't fix? So, yeah, like, I appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to make an entire series that's dedicated to teaching people why they shouldn't treat people like us, like them, in this manner. Because there's not enough people in the world to teach that lesson and still convey it in a serious enough way to really grab at people's attention, to really make it known to not do that in a creative, artistic style such as your own. And as an artist myself, I really do think that you did a good job with this. And going forward, the more characters you introduce, I'm going to try to continue drawing more fan art of these characters, because I'm surprised I'm the only one, besides you guys who created the characters, of course, who took time to draw fan art. And if you would like, I would continue to do this. Like, I really love your series, and I love your other series too. I've seen a lot of your live action stuff, and the bond that you have with all your friends in real life, you guys do a really good job at your live action series. So I just love your stuff in general, so good luck on your future projects.